it's not optional. I mean, you will either move there or you will watch your wealth lose its value as the people who put their money there appreciate. I mean, just think about it. If you have $1 million and you put them in a currency that's constantly depreciating, where somebody has $10,000 and puts them in a currency that's constantly appreciating, it's only a matter of time until they overtake you. And people are not stupid. They will realize this and they will want to move forward. So when I talk about Bitcoin adoption, people think of it as being like, say, Apple iPhone adoption. It's very nice and very cute, and then people will buy it. But I think that's not the model for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more like gunpowder adoption. If you think about it, did the French army have a choice whether they should adopt gunpowder or not? Did they decide, no, you know what, we like to keep it real with sticks and stones and swords, and we're not going to use gunpowder? If any army that decided to do this, it didn't matter, because then another army with gunpowder would come and take over France. So eventually, everywhere in the world ended up with gunpowder, either because people adopted it or because it was used against them. And I think Bitcoin is like that. Bitcoin is like financial gunpowder. It's the safest way of sending money halfway around the world, the most secure way, and it's the hardest money that we've ever invented. So it's not something that is, whether we should or want to, or whether people, we try to win people over. And this is why my book is not marketing for Bitcoin, because I don't think marketing for Bitcoin matters. At the end of the day, this is economic reality. The harder money will win. Gold beats silver, and I discuss this in my book, not because there was better marketing for gold or there was better propaganda for gold. It beats silver because of economic reality. Gold grew at a much slower rate than silver. The value of silver declined, and I think this is really the case with Bitcoin, I think, in the long run.
Bitcoin is gunpowder. I like that. I found that clip on Reddit. It's a Dr. Psychedine Amos. Let me know if you know him. Please also give me the names of your favorite Bitcoin thinker in the comments. Today I have another Michael Saylor clip. I started doing these videos to help spread the word about Bitcoin. So far I've been clipping Michael Saylor. One reason is because he is so unique. Today I have Michael answering on the Portal Orange YouTube channel linked in the description. In this interview, Michael is asked, why don't we see more Michael Saylors? Why don't more billionaires publicly invest a large portion of their net worth into Bitcoin? There will be others that will show up when you least expect them, and in quantities much greater than you expected. Towards the end of this answer, Michael gives reasons why we don't want Bitcoin to grow too quickly. There is something about how he explains issues that gives me comfort. Enjoy the clip.
That we thought there'd be many more Michael Saylors right behind you, and then I think we found out what a unique and special individual you are and how thoughtful you are about this. And I think the question I have for you is like, when are these political animals, these billionaires who operate in the current system, when are they going to get the message? Is it going to be like, are they going to be forced via necessity, or, is it a ongoing conversation, education? Like, where are the next 1,000 Michael Saylors?
I think they'll pop up when you least expect them, and in volume that's greater than you expect. I think, pursuant to this point, right? It makes sense that you can't have wealth without being part of the status quo and without respecting the existing political system, because anyone with wealth that didn't understand how to work the political system loses it all. Right, so it's almost like by definition, of course, the people with all the money in a stable society are invested in the society, because everyone that disagreed with the premise of the society, if you don't know how to work the legal system, the political system, then it was just taken away from you by someone that did. Yeah. So it shouldn't surprise us that the corporations and the extremely wealthy are very comfortable, and they're not quick to challenge the status quo. But I do think, the key to rational behavior is a decentralized world where there is a separation of power and a set of checks and balances. And so in governments where there's simply one central federal authority, you tend to have the most extreme, terrifying authoritarian behavior. In the U.S., we have states, and states have some rights to a certain degree, and the states tend to put some check on each other, and that's a source of virtue. We have a lot of wealthy people outside the U.S., and so to the extent that you have people in the Middle East and South America, I think you actually find there are a lot of wealthy people in South America and various countries, right, that aren't necessarily they're not necessarily embedded to their knees in concrete in the U.S. system, and so they see the benefit of Bitcoin, but it's not politically, and it's not wise for them to announce their commitment to Bitcoin, because they would be targets in their local country.
Right.
If you think about everyone in China, South America, and Africa, right, to a certain extent, right, the virtuous aspect of Bitcoin is the fact that it is both mobile, but also it is invisible wealth.
Right.
So you could argue that, that I undermined half of the value of my Bitcoin by making it visible.
Yeah.
I did it for a reason, and the reason is someone needed to do it. But I wouldn't say everyone needs to do it. If you, for example, had as much Bitcoin as me, and you lived in Venezuela right now, or any country on earth,
right,
I wouldn't necessarily, unless you were quite secure in your own situation, or unless you're willing, to take the brunt of the pushback for standing up in favor of Bitcoin for some other reason, I would say I would not encourage most people in an unstable political situation to announce they have Bitcoin. Yeah. I'm quite sure, for example, there are substantial Bitcoin holders that have made massive investments in Bitcoin in China. But I don't
Obviously,
think it's...
we're not going to hear about their stories, yeah.
Well, if you live in a corrupt society where they seize the wealth of anybody that has it,
mm-hmm.
then there's two types of people: those that announce they have it, that lose it in short order, and those that don't announce they have it and that you're not seeing. So I actually think there are a lot of people that, I'm not the only one that's bought $1 billion of Bitcoin. I'm the only one that's been in a position to announce it. And I've had a lot of reasons to announce it, right? I think that over the next 4 years, you'll see more. I actually think there's a huge amount of money in the crypto ecosystem right now, trading on crypto exchanges, trading in crypto tokens, trading in cryptocurrencies like stablecoins. And I think that over time, a lot of that capital will flow into Bitcoin because there's no other place for it to flow. So as people lose faith in crypto exchanges, and they lose faith in other crypto networks, and they lose faith in other cryptocurrencies, they're not going to go back to the fiat system. They're going to flow into Bitcoin, and the meltdown of crypto will be a melt up of Bitcoin, and so that'll be an interesting time period. And I think that'll be the next wave. It'll be a melt up of Bitcoin and a meltdown of crypto. And then the wave after that will be an emergence of Bitcoin as the highest form of property, right? And I would say the first investable commodity.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to beat up on commodities, but I really think that if you're an investor, there is no rational argument for investing in soybeans, corn, oil, raw natural gas, silver, copper, gold, platinum, palladium, or diamonds. Like whatever it is, it's a commodity. I think that I know people may be offended by this. I don't think there's any intelligent investor who believes that you should invest in any of those commodities. I don't think you can create a theoretical argument for investing in any of them. And the reason why is in the beginning of my business career, we had I worked for DuPont for a while, and we built models. And we built models to predict the profitability of every DuPont business, Lycra and nylon and titanium dioxide and all the polymers and the freons and the chemicals. And there was one dirty word at DuPont. And you know what the dirtiest word was? No. Commodity. Like, we do not want to be commoditized or commodified. We don't want to sell commodity. Specialty, differentiated specialty was the good word. Like, this was good, that was awful.
Yeah.
And the reason that was awful was anybody can make a commodity. You see? Mm-hmm. Anybody can make a commodity. That's the definition of commodity, right? And so there aren't any mainstream investors that are intelligent invested in commodities. They might invest in the company that produces the oil in the country, and then it only works if they form a cartel.
Right.
OPEC.
Yeah.
If you have it only works when I form a cartel or I get a monopoly on producing the commodity.
De Beer is another one,
it's
famous
like,
one.
If I have a diamond cartel and oil cartel, or I produce natural gas, but you know how it works? I'm the only one with a pipeline, and then I pay someone to protest the other pipeline because I don't want two pipelines. Because if there's two pipelines, my price is going to zero, or my profit's going to zero. Yeah. So the commodity business is, in essence, a political business that revolves around creating cartels and creating tariffs and creating restraints of trade. And if you're fortunate enough to do that, maybe you make money in the business of producing it. Yeah. But if I offered you $1 billion of soybeans, or $1 billion of natural gas, or $1 billion of gold, or $1 billion of silver in that warehouse, and said, do you want to hold it for 100 years? If you thought about it, you'd realize it's the dumbest thing you could possibly imagine. Right. So along comes Bitcoin, and what do people think, right? In the mainstream, I'm talking about the people with hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars that actually got rich by being intelligent investors. They all learned that you get poor by investing in commodities.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first of all, they're not investing in Bitcoin because they're deniers. It's tulip bulbs and it's a scam. And if it's the Peter Schiffs of the world, if they think that, they're not going to invest. So then they migrate to skeptics. It's really good something, but it's too good, and the government will ban it.
Blockchain, not Bitcoin.
So they're not going to invest in that because it's too good to be true, and the government will ban it. And they don't invest in. They didn't get rich investing in things the government was against. Yeah. So then it has to go to stage 3. They're traders or they're investors, and it's an asset.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a commodity, Bitcoin is a digital commodity. Like, well, wait a minute. Did anybody ever get rich buying a bunch of commodities? No.
Right.
So it's not. I'm not buying a commodity, and you have to actually get. I trade a commodity. Yeah. Like I will trade soybeans. I will trade cotton. I will trade pork bellies. I will short and go long natural gas. I'm a trader, but I'm not long-term to that, right? So maybe we get there. You have to get beyond that to this epiphany. It's the first commodity you can't make more of.
Yeah.
And now it's not a commodity anymore. It's a scarcity. But scarcity is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because scarcity has never been created in the history of the human race. So nobody who's rich got rich investing in scarcity. Right. No one inherited scarcity. Yeah. Right? No one actually discovered another one. So you're asking people to invest in something that at best looks like a commodity, which is an awful idea. Right? Like, the truth is, if you find me a billionaire or a multi-billionaire that got rich by buying and holding gold.
Right.
There isn't one. Right? All they remember is Bunky Hunt and the Hunt brothers tried to corner silver and lost billions. I can show you billionaires that aren't anymore because they bought commodities, but I can't show you one that held it. So What you've got is something that no one ever got rich on. And so they have to actually cross this threshold where they say, hey, this is a big tech dominant network, but there's no company behind it. Did anybody ever get rich investing in a network without a company behind it? No. Did anybody ever get rich investing in a scarcity? No. Yeah. And so these people that you're looking for, they actually have to discover an utterly new paradigm, and a new paradigm gets discovered by someone that has a need, right? You have to be fleeing.
Yeah.
If you're fleeing Syria, if you're fleeing a war zone, if you're fleeing a dictatorship, if you're fleeing an authoritarian society where you're going to lose everything, if you're in Africa and you're going to lose everything, then you can discover it. But the challenge with the refugees is they have a lot of incentive, a lot of motive, and their minds are open, but they don't have a lot of money, you see. Yeah. Right? And if they do have a lot of money, okay, you're the billionaire fleeing a dictatorship where people have guns and they'll shoot you.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of... how many billionaires stood up in an airport in Zimbabwe and said, I have $1 billion, I'm leaving on a jet plane right now, and I'm proud that I have it, you see? So you're not going to get a rational person with a lot of money with a motive to announce it. You're going to have people that don't have that much money with a motive that will say they've got it, but they'll be afraid. Then you're going to have people with a lot of money in the Western world, right? And their challenge is that, they have a minor motive, but they're not looking at losing everything yet. Yeah. And so on the periphery, you have a fire that's burning, but you don't have an avalanche of adoption, because even though it's rational that everyone with any amount of money should just go out and sell a third of their stuff, or 10% of their stuff. They should all sell 10% of their stuff, and they should buy Bitcoin tomorrow. That's rational. But be careful what you wish for. Right. Because you don't really want them to do it that fast. Right now, Bitcoin is, you can make an argument. I'm flying an airplane. When I fly through the speed of sound, I rip the wings off the airplane, right? The speed of sound is the rate at which the air here is able to communicate with the air here. So when you pass the speed of sound, you slam into the air without it knowing that you're coming. It's like slamming into a brick wall as hard as you can. That's why no commercial travel to this day is faster than the speed of sound. Well, there's a rate at which a new paradigm can blow through the world. And there's the equivalent of the sound wave, this political economic barrier. People can adjust to it at a certain rate. That rate over the past 3 years has been Bitcoin growing 50% a year, right? Through that. And maybe it can grow a $500 billion entity that kind of can grow at that rate. If it went any faster, you start shredding reality and tearing the fabric of reality. Yeah. And you could argue that
there's a lot of Bitcoiners who wish for that, by the way. They want that to happen.
Bitcoin at 27,000 today, after the crypto meltdown, is probably good, because if Bitcoin was 250,000 right now, after the crypto meltdown, instead of all the regulators and all the politicians in the world attacking every crypto exchange, every other cryptocurrency, every other crypto token, and leaving Bitcoin alone, maybe people would be worried about Bitcoin. So the one word conspicuously absent from all of the regulatory attacks in the crypto industry is Bitcoin. Okay? Yeah. We're not a geopolitical threat. We're not a status quo threat, right? And so I think it's good for us to wait and allow that to form in its own rate, even though you're impatient sometime. everyone that's actually done the work to understand Bitcoin is able to buy Bitcoin right now for 27,000 instead of 270,000. And if the world was rational, it's like I said, when the FDIC embraces Bitcoin and lets banks hold Bitcoin, everybody will want it. No one will want to sell it. You won't be able to afford it. Right? And so you don't want them to get too rational too soon, because Bitcoin, let's play a little thought experiment. People with a lot more money than you listen to this podcast, and tomorrow they actually figure it out and they buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes to 10 million a coin. Now, how are you feeling? What are you thinking?
I'm the honest truth is I would feel scared. The day that Bitcoin went up $8,000 in a single day, I was kind of despondent, and I told my wife. She goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "If it kept doing this every day for like 30 days, we now live in an entirely different world." And that's kind of, now it didn't do that, but that thought was terrifying to me.
It's like, if you're already all in on Bitcoin, right? And by the way, I'm going to tell you a dirty secret. There are actually Bitcoiners that aren't all in.
What?
There are Bitcoiners that aren't.
No.
There are some Bitcoiners that have some of their wealth in other places. They're somewhat diversified. So if you're all in on Bitcoin and people get rational and it goes to the moon, good for you.
Yeah.
But what about everybody else that you've been talking to and everyone you hope to help, and it's too late for them? And you've created, you don't want 1% of the world to have everything and everyone else disenfranchised. And now your friends and your family are just looking for a handout from you.
Yeah.
And
I already set aside 10% for them. I figured that would happen.
And so ultimately, like MicroStrategy bought Bitcoin at 10,000. And then we bought it at 15 and 20 and 25 and 30 and 40 and 50 and 60,000, and we'll keep buying. I'm just totally fine with it going up to 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. I want to keep acquiring, and I'm hoping that I have 100 more Bitcoin buys between here and 1 million.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just like, okay, Google just bought $100 billion worth of Bitcoin and you're all priced out of the market, and Google has it there. You like it. So you don't, on one hand, we lament that there aren't more. On the other hand, it's like too much speed, and you're just going to rip the wings off the airplane. And the most morally sound, politically sound, economically sound way for this to evolve is for it to continue to grow at a brisk pace with some volatility back and forth, and just let the message get out and give us time. Satoshi said, we don't want WikiLeaks to take Bitcoin. We're not ready for that. We're not ready for that degree of success yet. Give us a bit of time.